You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
Sometimes we have an idea that we keep thinking about over and over again, but how do you know when it's time to launch? I'm going to talk through it. Stick around.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candice. Now let's start the show.
Hey!
Hello! How are you, Miss Candice?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's Thursday. It's Breezy Mom's Thursday. And you know that we come
Mhm.
at you from all the good places where you can listen to your podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and yes, even Spotify. See,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
getting better.
yes. So good. So good. I love it. I
And
love it.
and of course, you can come on Facebook Live and watch the actual live stream for Facebook, and then of course catch the show afterwards on YouTube. So there's so many
Absolutely.
ways for you to be able to engage with us, and for us to be able to engage with you.
All the ways, all the ways. So I'm so glad to be here. Thursday keeps coming around really, really fast. Like every time I blink, it's Thursday again.
I'm telling you,
And this week I'm excited. Look, I got a new hat.
it looks very nice. I love it.
Mhm. It's
It's very
mini
mini pearl.
who's Mini Pearl?
I don't know. It's just a movie from. It's a line from the movie Selena when they're in the mall and they're shopping. She goes like, "Do you like it?" She goes like, "What? It's very mini pearl."
I love when we know phrases like that, but we don't know what they mean. And then
Right.
nobody ever wants to say that they don't know what it means, you know?
I,
It's like,
I have no
should
shame in
I?
my game, girl, but I just love the line, so I say it. You know,
I love it. I love it. No, I was out thrifting with my friend
nice.
Jocelyn, and I took her to. I It's my favorite thing to take people to a couple. In Connecticut, we have several, like lots and lots of thrift stores. And if you're a thrifter, you get to know which ones are good and which ones are good for what. Like some are good for clothes, some are good for furniture. And I was with Jocelyn, and we were at the one that I happen to think is really good for clothes and accessories. And she had never looked at the clothes. She always, because she's an interior designer, just like beelines for the accessories and the furniture.
Right.
And like without fail, she lost her mind, right? Just lost her mind. Like so many good things. And I was like, don't feel bad. Your first trip to this one is the Salvation Army. Your first trip here is always the worst. You learn how to control yourself every
Right.
time you come out. But this one also carries they carry stuff from Zara. So they have like 3 or 4 racks of things. Must be, I would guess, like irregular type stuff from the Zara store, but they have tags on it, like really cool stuff. Of course, it's a lot of smalls and extra small, so I don't
Right.
get involved with that. But it was really, I mean, it's super cute. It's super
Well,
cute.
a lot of people don't realize that, like you said, you get to know where the good ones are.
Hmm.
And I happen to know that some of the best that you can go to for clothing, because you find really good articles
Hmm.
of clothing, especially around the fall when people are looking to, freshen up their coat racks, get new coats and stuff. Go to the Westport area. When
Oh
you go to
yeah, really,
Westport,
really
when you
good.
go to like this, that side of Connecticut where the rich people live,
Hmm.
they don't care about walking into a thrift store and dropping a coat off that cost them like $400, and
Right.
you can buy it for 25.
It's true. Now, to
So,
be fair, the prices at the Westport Goodwill are a little bit higher than you're used to. But
yes.
if you're thinking four, five, $600 coat, if you have to spend $60 on it, it might be worth it because it's like super fancy.
Right.
Um, but typically, if you're a thrifter, a seasoned thrifter, you go around $20 for a pretty substantial coat. And then if you're fancy, like I like to consider myself fancy, you know when to go on certain days, right? Like half off days, or you know to look for the, I think Goodwill always has a color sticker that's on sale, so you know to make sure to keep an eye out for the pink stickers this week because those are going to be 50% off.
Right.
There's lots of tips and tricks to thrifting, and I love it. I think I probably started thrifting about 10 years ago, and had to get over thinking that there was something wrong with it, right? Like I
Right.
grew up with my grandma. I'm from New York City, and so I grew up with my like grandma, and my mom always like, oh, but they always knew the right places. They used to go downtown New York or actually uptown, and know exactly where to go. But as a little kid, when you're just trying not to get made fun of at school, you need to have the like baby fat stuff on. You can't come with like the old lady Talbots. Like you can't wear
Right.
Talbots in the eighth grade. Like it's just not okay.
But it's you do what you do. If you do your homework, you can score some really amazing things.
And I know that now. I wish, of course, hindsight is 2020, and I wish that I knew all of these things. Like today, this Jocelyn's also got me obsessed with turtlenecks this year, and so this turtleneck is one of my finds, and this cool felt hat. Like I'm super excited about because this hat was only $5 as opposed to like $150 you can buy at some of these fancy
Right.
online stores. And then the last thing, because the show wasn't meant to be about thrifting, is but the thing I like most about buying these kinds of things, especially sweaters thrifted, is because once they start to pill, which no matter how expensive your sweater is, it pills, right? Like
Right.
when I was working at Bloomingdale's, I was like, I'm gonna splurge on a cashmere sweater because like I have a lot of disposable income. I'm 22 and I don't have anything better to spend my money on. And I was like, if I buy the expensive cashmere, then it
It'll
won't
last longer.
pill. No, that shit pilled. It pilled right up, right in the places where they always pill. So
Right.
this
But
way,
for
at the end of
you,
this way at the end of the season, I can chuck them and I don't feel any kind of way about it.
right. But at least for you, I mean, you're a person that typically runs cold, right? And so for you, turtlenecks make sense. I
Yes.
mean, but when you think of me, like I'm a person that like really enjoys being free, as you can see.
Apparently.
I always wear tank tops. And so because I feel comfortable and it doesn't matter what type of like what season it is. If I'm in the house, I am not going to be warm. Like out of my heat. The only reason why my heat went on a Thursday evening was because Candice was
Because
here
I was
and she was
here.
like, "It's cold. Can you
I
turn
know.
on the heat?"
Because
I
we
was like,
would legit be in the same room. You dress like that.
"Yeah, I
You
know."
dress like this, and people are like, "What is exactly happening over there? Like, what is the weather? What's going
It
on?"
the weather is a hot mess in my house. I just love a cold house. I don't know what it is. I feel good in it and I run hot anyway, so like I'm always boiling, so
Uh-huh.
the less the better. I mean, if I
Um,
could, live my life in underwear, I probably would.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
That's a
so
whole nother thing. I think it's cool at night when you can't sleep in heat. You can't
right.
sleep when it's hot. But I have my thermostat set so that I think it's got like four different settings. So there's daytime, uh, nighttime to waking up, and like I guess that's three different settings, so that we're warm in the day and it turns down when it's time to go to sleep.
Right. Because no one wants to go to sweep
Sweating, yeah,
to sweep
sweating.
sweating. Right.
I know, I know.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
The time is coming to make a decision, to take a stand. For you, for me, for all of us. So do what you must and get ready, because come November we say loud and clear, no more.
So, Miss Candice,
Yes, I'm listening.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How are your amazing boys?
Okay, so my boys are good and they're about to be so much better because announcement that just came out of New Haven today is that schools are not going back into session. They are going to remain distance. They were supposed to go in hybrid on November 9th. And just today at like, I don't know, 2 o'clock this afternoon, they announced that they are no longer doing that. They are scrapping the whole hybrid plan, which was like borderline not a plan, and everybody is to stay distance. Now, I know I'm trying to be sensitive to folks who don't have the situation that I have. I know that this comes as a blow to some people because their kids are at home with them and they haven't found a hub or they haven't found a pod to connect with. And so I I'm totally sensitive to that fact because people have been home with their kids for 6 months,
Right.
trying to manage work, trying to manage life and illness. If anybody gets sick, I just spoke to a friend who, of the four of them in the house, two of them are sick, and so it has been a really challenging time on
I
the
can only
side.
imagine.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and we knew this was coming. Right? There's an uptick of COVID cases that are
Yes.
spiking all over the U.S.
Hmm.
And even in Connecticut, where we had, for what we thought was a manageable caseload, we're starting to see that uptick. And so,
Yeah, it
what
was
I
at
see,
2%, and
right,
now it's at 6.
right, and so what
So
we're seeing is that tick and that spike. Right, people are now getting comfortable. They're like, oh, screw this. We're gonna get together, and you're
mhm.
starting to see COVID now start spreading all over again. We're in that what they call the third wave,
Mm.
and I
Third? I thought it was
anticipate.
only the second.
No, this is the third. This is the third
Wow.
wave. And what I see now is that um, we're going to start seeing, for example, schools doing a 360, right? And saying, no, we can't do this because this is what we're risking. And soon enough, restaurants
Mm.
and small businesses are going to yet be impacted again. And all I keep saying to myself is wear your mask and wash your hands.
Yeah.
And so for those who don't want to do it, I'm not going to tell you that you have to. I'll let the
I mean,
government do
somebody
that.
should. I mean, somebody should tell them they have to.
But you should, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're sitting here complaining that you can't do XYZ, that your whole summer was shot, that all this is, that it's all horrible and blah, blah, blah. If you had listened from day one,
Right.
social distance, put your mask on, we may have been in a better position than we are today.
Come summer. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't help that we have an administration that really doesn't really focus on showing the people the right thing to do.
Right.
They're completely doing the opposite. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the numbers are going up. So we're up to 6% in Connecticut. And New Haven specifically just rolled back to stage 2. Now, I don't know exactly what all of that meant like, I can't remember exactly. And I tried to find out and it wasn't coming up as quickly as I needed it to. But I'm guessing that we're reducing. I don't know if stage 2 was closing restaurants down or if it's reducing. I think we had gone up to 80% capacity in some of
Right.
the public spaces, and they've probably now reduced it back maybe to 50%,
Right.
if any dining in at all, right? I'm not sure exactly. But even I had been meeting someone in a restaurant. Thankfully, it's a small cafe that it's not a very busy place, but we were meeting inside. We would have our masks on, but not everybody was. And if you're eating, like, we weren't always eating. If you're eating, everybody takes down their mask in order to eat anyway.
Right.
I actually had someone come, like, panhandling at my door tonight, and he said, before he asked me, I thought it was a solar guy. But before he asked me, he was like, "Oh, do you want me to wear my mask?" And I was like, "Yes." And so he put on his mask, and then he was like, "Oh, can I have $20?" And I was like, "Wait a minute."
Wait, it's not $1 anymore or change. It's 20 now.
It was 20 to 30. It was like 20. I
I
just need
cannot.
20 or $30. And I was like, "Dude, you don't know me and I don't have any
2020.
money." Like,
I'm
it's
trying. Well, we're level 11 right now of 2020 of
right.
Jumanji. We got one more level. Let's get that freaking stone back where it belongs.
Right,
And,
right. Did you see
because
someone? Wait, someone was like, apparently on the moon, there is a crater that recently formed and is growing. And someone was like, who had hatching moon on their like 2020 bingo sheet?
like seriously.
I died. Oh my God, I
Yeah,
died.
it's been crazy, and it's we're going to be stuck with this for the better part of the next 18 months. I just
Yeah.
believe that that's going to happen. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that come next Tuesday, people vote
Coming up.
that we have or that we get a change in administration that then allows science to be the guide for
Right.
what we should be doing so that we can get to where we need to be.
Now, I had not been nervous about voting before, but I'm all of a sudden a little bit nervous because my plan has been to vote in person because it's right around the corner from my house. I've never
Right.
had any problem. But now that schools are closed and we're sort of rolling back, now all of a sudden I'm worried that they're gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do about in person voting. And
Right.
now I wish I had done, made some other, an alternative plan for voting. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna like cross my fingers and hope that we can get in and out quickly.
Right.
For
Mom and I already voted, and so
yeah,
because we requested our absentee ballots, we got them, we filled
mhm,
them out together. I went to my town hall and deposited mine in the ballot box, and she did hers.
mhm.
And then once you do that, you can actually go online, go to ct.gov if you're in Connecticut. You can put in your information and see if you're registered. So you got to go to the part of the website where you're checking to see if you're registered. And so if
Mhm.
you've sent your ballot in, once you enter your information and hit search, if they received your ballot and it has been counted, it'll tell you right on that website.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
So that's a really good way for you to know that your ballot was actually received. And so both of ours were received. My co host Nick did the same thing. Our friend Paul Anthony did the same thing. So that a lot of people really took advantage of the fact that you could do that. But now is not the time to do that.
No, not if
You
you
are,
didn't already do it.
it is Thursday. Election day is Tuesday. You're not going to get your ballot in time if you request your absentee ballot, and you're certainly not going to be able to mail it back in time. So at this point, make a plan and go to the polls. Do what you need to do. Just stay safe. Wear your mask. Social
Yep.
distance. Take some sanitizer with you, and potentially a snack because depending on where you're at, you could be potentially waiting in line for a very long time. I mean, we've seen wait times, and look at Georgia, look at the state of Georgia, look at Texas, some of these early voting states that opened up, even New York. When you look at the city of Yonkers, Yonkers had two early voting polling places in the entire city, and it was a nightmare.
Oh,
People waited in line for 4 hours.
wow.
So be prepared. Have a plan. If you thought that you were going to be doing multiple things that day, just do that one. That
Right,
is
right.
your most important priority that day. You can do shopping, grocery shopping, or anything else the
Yeah,
next day, or do it over the weekend so that you don't have to do it on Tuesday.
it's true. It's true. And even if your kids were in school, because some schools are back in person, school's going to be closed that day. So, make a plan to do it. I mean, I don't think it's probably a great idea to take your kids out into a crowded place where you have to
Right.
wait for a long time.
But have a
So
plan, right?
we will likely take turns
Right.
to
So
go.
you are too if you are a household that has two parents, or one, have a plan. If you're having a buddy that's going to go and vote with you, well, why don't you stay here, watch the kids while I go vote, and then when I come back, you go vote,
Right.
right? And do that because one way or another, it needs to happen.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
hoping that we have a really good outcome. It's scary,
yeah. Fingers crossed.
right?
Woo.
Wait,
Okay.
can
Of
I
course,
cross
we
all
have
of
a
this? I'll even vote for you.
downstairs.
So, but yeah, so have a plan, people. Make sure that you go and vote. Oh,
Yes.
and one more thing,
Yes.
because it's me. If you arrive at the polls on election day and you are told that you are not in the registration books when you arrive and they can't find you, you can request a provisionary ballot. It
Hmm.
is the law in the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
Okay,
So that
so
means something they give you there on the spot to
that
to
is correct.
okay,
So
provisionary ballot.
make sure that you
Don't let
do that.
anybody turn you away.
That's right. There is a way to vote regardless, and so
Right.
your last resort is a provisionary ballot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Queen.
I think we got all the housekeeping stuff out.
Yes.
So I want to talk today about knowing when to launch. So uh, a l- uh I don't want to overextend, but I get a lot of people uh talking to me about their ideas, which I love. I've even gone so far lately to think of myself as an idea coach more than a business coach, right? And I
Right.
think it's so much fun to hear the kinds of things that people have in their head. And right now is a great time, right? All other things aside, all things taking into consideration, it's still a really great time to think to like start something new or to
Hmm.
launch something or to try something. We call it shooting bullets, right? You shoot a couple bullets before you shoot your cannon. I'm trying to remember what that book is, but it's some productivity book that came out 10 years ago or something. Anyway, the idea is that right now is probably the best time, and even if it goes wrong, like we can just blame 2020. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like we just
true.
chalk it up to 2020 if it doesn't work, but this is a great time to launch. And what I've been thinking about a lot lately is, how do you know when you're ready to launch? Because a couple people have come to me and it gets very clear to me very quickly that they're not actually ready to launch. They do have an idea. They have been thinking about it a lot of time, for a long time, but they haven't made the decision. Like, launching or not launching is a very clear, or starting or not starting is a very clear point in your mind that you have to make. And
Right.
I want to make sure that I put in a caveat here that I have I have launched three different businesses and two and a half different podcasts just in the last couple years, let alone every little like jewelry store or bag store that I tried to start when I was 20 years old, right? And so I know now, have 2020, hindsight is 2020, having gone through this a couple times, that fear creeps in really sneakily, but really strong, like
Right.
really fiercely. And it presents itself in several different ways, right?
And
And
when
so
you least expect it too.
exactly. So when you find yourself, or when I have found myself stalling, it's definitely because of fear. And I don't realize it's fear until like I've had some time to think about it. So that's what I want to talk about tonight, from my own experience, when I have had the chance to turn around and look at like what happened, from start to finish, or like midway. Um I can recognize now the signs that are about fear.
Right.
So so I think, so I've got my notes here so I don't forget anything. So when I'm thinking about like your roadmap to launch, I'm thinking about people who want to sell something. Now, there are nonprofits, there are, community organizations, which is a nonprofit. There are things that are very reasonable things, and things you might want to do, that don't involve selling per se. But still, even when you're running a nonprofit, in order to get funding, you have to sell your program. Like, basically,
Right.
that's what you're doing. You're selling the benefits of your program, and the features and benefits of what you're doing, and why someone should give you money to keep doing it. Like, that's basically sales as well, right? So in any case, you're trying to sell something, unless you're independently wealthy and you can bankroll this whole thing yourself. And so the first thing I think
Which is
about,
usually not the case, but so
usually not the case, right?
that's just, we have to throw that out there.
Right, right, right. And you shouldn't be comparing yourself to people who that is the case for, right?
Right.
Like, we get very distracted by people we see on Instagram or on Bravo TV or whatever, and it looks like they have this rags to riches story and they cry a few times, but when you actually find out what happened, like, it's not rags to riches.
Right. I mean, they probably have some disposable income and they decided to throw
Or
money at this
just
thing
something.
because they needed to do something. And then you
Right.
realize that if that fails, they're still okay. So don't focus
I
on
know.
them. Focus
I,
on you.
I remember one designer was like, I came up with this idea on my houseboat, right? Like, oh, I was so broke, I had nothing, and I was laying on the house on in my bed in the houseboat, and I was like, lady, poor people don't have houseboats. Like, you might not have had as much as you had
Well,
before.
well,
Maybe.
there's some areas in the South, like in the Mississippi area, where people, it's a thing to have a houseboat.
Okay. Okay,
So
that's not what this lady's thing was.
okay.
That's not right. So anyway, I would say make sure that you're not thinking about like comparing yourself to the wrong kind of person, right?
Right.
Outside of your tax bracket, because it's not the same journey. But I say all of that to say, when you're thinking about your idea, like, get clear on what it is that you're selling. and get clear on that thing. For me, for childcare, like you're selling a program, a childcare program, and it's not it is about why you do it, but it's also about what you do. So it doesn't matter how nice you are or how much love you have in your heart. If you have a shitty program, nobody is going to want it, right?
Right.
And so you have to have a good product. In my case, it was the childcare was a good product and people liked it, right? But when it was time, before I knew I had a good product, right? When it was time to fill out all the forms and go through the whole process of like signing up for this license that I needed, there were little things that kept getting in my mind. Oh, are people going to think my house is big enough? Oh, people already have their kids in programs. Oh, people already have their older kids in programs, so they're going to put their new babies in new program in the same program. They probably are not. Look at where I live. People are probably not going to want to come over here, right? Like you start to have little all the reasons for why something's not going to work start to creep up into your mind because you haven't decided for sure that what you are selling is worth selling,
Right.
right? Like if I had thought the other way first, like I am confident in this product, I know what I'm doing, and like people are going to love this, right? There would have
Right.
been no reason to be afraid, but I was a little bit afraid. Are people going to wonder if I have a master's in early childhood education? And it's like, no, I just have two kids that are doing pretty well, so maybe I could help yours, right? Like
Exactly. I mean,
I got a master's in life.
I've always said that necessity is the mother of all invention, right? But
Right.
fear can be that one thing that sidetracks you super fast.
Every time, every time.
And so, yeah, I mean, we're all gonna have fear. It's a
Right.
normal human reaction to something that you're uncomfortable with. As humans, we fear what we don't know. And
Exactly.
so, like you said, if you take your time, knowing when to launch is really key,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Do your homework, right?
Yep.
Spend that quality, critical time before launch to really have all of your ducks in a row and know
Mhm.
exactly what it is that you're going to do, what you're selling, know your game plan, and
Mhm.
then launch.
Right.
Because
Right.
then you won't be as scared because you already know. You've gone through
Exactly.
the motions.
Exactly. So that is really important, being clear about what your thing is. And one of the things as a note on what it is that you're selling, one of the things that people get tripped up a lot on is someone else selling what I'm selling, right?
Right.
Are there other childcare providers?
Of
There
course there
were.
are.
They're everywhere, right? But they're also nail salons in every corner. They're also Chinese restaurants in every corner.
Mm-hmm.
I live close to Hamden. There are three supermarkets within a stone's throw from each other, right? Like literally you can see all the supermarkets from the door of the other supermarkets, right?
Right.
Those when big stores do it, it seems like, oh, but it's a mall and that makes sense, right? That you have and competition and all those things. But when we as individuals are doing it, it's sort of like, oh my God, I can't open up a daycare that's right next door to another daycare, which
Why
I'm
not?
in, or I
Daycare
can't
has limits, right?
exactly. She can't take all the kids, right?
She can only
Or
take six.
exactly. Or can I sell t-shirts if so and so is also selling t-shirts? Or can I
Yes.
sell cups or whatever it is? We take the fact that other people are doing it as a explanation for why maybe our idea isn't unique enough or isn't good
Right.
enough or isn't something enough. Like we always get caught up on like it isn't something enough. And the fact is, something that James always reminds me is that if someone else is doing it, it means it's a good idea. Like
Right.
that's actually something a reason why you should do it.
It's
Now, you
working.
should put your own flair on it, you should put your special sauce on it, but
Mm-hmm.
you you can't always be the person who makes the thing that is so unique that nobody knows what it is or how to use it or that they want it, right? Like I just saw a new style of peeler, like a vegetable peeler,
Right.
and all the little things snap inside of it so that it ends up looking like a triangle. And I just kept thinking, if I wasn't watching QVC right now, which I was, like, would I know what this was if I was in the store? Like, how many times do you see these little gadgets and things for the kitchen? And I'm legit like, what is this? What am I supposed to do with it? And that will stop people from buying your thing because they don't know how to use it.
Right.
Why would I buy something I don't know how to use? So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're making something that someone has never seen, just make sure you have a strategy to advertise and
right.
educate people on what the product is, right? That's where advertising comes in, and
Yeah.
you create little commercials, and or you can hire Candice to do an amazing little digital commercial for you that you can then use for your product.
Right. Right.
Because I have to tell you, when you did the Echo Body skincare line,
Mhm.
those commercials that you were doing, those were on fire. I mean, they
Thank
still are. They're
you.
still out
Thank
there. They're
you.
really great work, and they were successful in getting the point across. It's
Mhm.
very holistic. It's all natural. The vibe that you got from what you were presenting spoke to that, right?
That was the goal. That was the goal. But I will tell you that when I was starting that, and thank you very much for those kind words. When I was starting that, I was a little bit afraid, right? Like, I launched with a natural deodorant, and I was a little bit afraid that look at all these other ones. Lumi, each and every. Um, Little Seed, like there's so many. And if you go onto Etsy, like there's so many. And I started thinking, like, who am I to, who cares about my little formula? But then I started to get people to try it, and like so many people were loving it. You know what I mean? And so then I was thinking, like, well, who am I to keep this from the people? Right? Like,
Right.
it's
Like,
not
hey,
fair.
listen, if there's a demand for it, do it.
Yes. Yes. But that's the kind of thing that, like, seeing, and especially if you're looking at something, then Instagram will show it to you, like all the different
Mm-hmm.
permutations of it. And so you will start to see a bunch of things and think, oh my god, they're already, the market is saturated in natural deodorant, right?
Listen, there's no
That's it.
such thing
There's
as
a there's not.
oversaturation.
I mean,
We
it's not nothing is as saturated as we think it is.
No.
You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
think about all the crap that people put on what's that it's not Tinder, it's the what's the little video app? The one that the president was supposedly going to ban.
TikTok.
TikTok. TikTok,
Yeah.
TikTok. So think of all the craziness that lives on TikTok and how many hours people spend consuming that stuff. And
Mhm.
in the midst of all those hours, how many commercials sneak in there with product?
All kinds of things. And when you're looking, if you just think about being in the supermarket,
Mm-hmm.
there are maybe 75 different kinds of cereals, let alone the 30 different kinds of Cheerios, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we live in a culture and in a world where people like so many different options. Like, we
Right.
don't live in a, black and white. I mean, it is black and white, but I'm thinking, you know what I mean,
Right.
scenario where it's like this juice or that juice, right? There
Right.
are only two options. There's so many different options, and it is okay to make your own version of, like, deodorant in my case, or hand cream or hand soap or whatever it is. Don't let the fact that you've seen it somewhere stop you from doing it, because
Right.
that is just fear creeping in, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next thing that I think about when I'm thinking about what it took for me to launch and how I feel like I've gotten better at it each time is thinking ahead of time about how much money you want to invest into this idea. Now, I will admit that probably the first two times that I launched, I was afraid to put on paper what my initial investment, because I thought, one, the number would be too big and it would be too scary, or two, if I really looked at the numbers, then I'll find out that I have, like, spent too much, and, like, what do I have to show for it? Again, more fear creeps in. And so what ends up happening is that you don't put a number down, but you also don't have a number to keep you in check.
Right.
So it's actually more detrimental to just sort of like fly by the seat of your pants. And I always find myself thinking, when I really start to spend money on this, then I'll start to track.
Right.
But the fact is, if you go back and look at all those like $2.34, $15, $12, $22,
They
like
add
you
up.
have already spent a substantial amount of money.
Right.
So
Not to mention the cost of all the things that work in the background.
right.
Websites, phone,
Mhm.
advertising, this, that,
Yep.
computers. You know,
Absolutely.
when we launched our podcast, a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize I have a camera sitting in front of me. I have a phone sitting in front of me. I have a computer down here. I have $300 microphone here.
Yep.
This little boom arm was $100, or that mixer behind me was $1,000.
Yep.
That monitor was another 300. That's 55-inch TV that displays Candice's beautiful artwork. It's money.
It's
It
money.
costs
And whether
money.
you count it or not, it still is adding up,
You
right?
know, you know,
And
and
so you should not be afraid to put those numbers down because either way, you're going to get a rude awakening at some point.
right. And see, for us, like when we launched Gay Talk, for
Mhm.
example, it was a labor of love. I didn't care how much I spent on this because I knew that it was something that we wanted to do where it didn't involve making money.
Mhm.
Right? It was us having conversations that really revolved around issues that of things that are happening in our community. When
Mhm.
you launched the Breezy Moms podcast, you did so because you wanted to talk about some of the things that you go through being a parent and living in today's society, right? And slowly but surely things start shifting and we start talking about other things, and then you got into this really entrepreneurship like mode, right? Like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do because I'm going to lose my mind if I don't do anything.
Right.
And you really took the bull by the horns and you said, I am going to do X, Y, and Z and put it all together. And I want to make money doing this. But
Mhm.
you were focused and you knew that that's what you wanted to do. But in the end, whatever it is that you want to do is going to take money. So have a plan,
Right.
have a budget,
Yep.
say to yourself, this is what I want to do, but this is how much I'm willing to put in initially, and
Yep.
work with that and stick to that.
And have little markers for how will you know when it's time to add more money, right?
Right.
Because when we're starting something, even if you do a ton of research, you don't really know exactly how much it's going to cost, right?
Right.
Like you have a good idea, but some things, you might get the nicer mic instead of the cheaper mic or whatever, but um you set your budget, and then maybe you have like one of these if then scenarios where like I've put in $500. If in 3 months I am X, then I'll add another $500, right?
Right.
Or if not, then I'll do this instead, right? But what happens is that you set up a scenario that allows your brain to relax and not have to be in fight or flight mode all the time. And
Right.
that's what I think happens when you don't set a budget, write things down, set some goals for yourself, is that your brain is legit trying to manage all the incoming information, especially if it's a new thing that you haven't tried before.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying Your brain is trying to manage all of this stuff, and in the back of your mind it's going, are you calculating, because we don't have any money, right? Like and your brain never quite goes to sleep. And so the reality that I find is that I can't actually dream big about how to make the podcast bigger because I'm so worried in the background about what's going to go wrong, or like how much money I've spent, or do I need a new thing, right?
Right.
But if you get that out of your head by writing it down, then your brain can think, and then you can make the new strategy that will actually give you the space to grow the way you want to. You
And
know what I
have a
mean?
contingency too. It's important to have a contingency in the sense of, think about when you're, for example, remodeling a house, right?
Yep.
You bought this house. It's not a brand new house. It wasn't built yesterday. So it's got a couple of, a good 60 years under its belt. And you want to remodel, and you start taking down drywall and walls, and you soon realize that the initial cost that you thought it was going to be, let's say it was a $75,000 remodel, all of a sudden now turns into an $85,000 or $90,000 remodel because you ran into some asbestos, and
Right,
now you
right.
have to have that remediated, right?
Yeah.
You didn't plan for that. You didn't know it was behind the wall, but you had that contingency that allows you to be a little bit more flexible when
Mhm.
you hit certain stumbles. And so if you look at it in that sense, right, this is how much I'm willing to spend. Let's say it's $2,000, but I'm going to throw an extra 800 as a contingency, not
Right.
because I'm going to use it, but because if there's an emergency,
Things always happen.
things always happen
Or
that I need,
opportunities,
or
right?
opportunities, you have that
Your
contingency.
example in your example, it's like a unforeseen like problem, but an opportunity might come up, right?
Right.
Maybe you decided to launch a podcast and it was just going to be you, but then you have this opportunity for a guest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any money to buy? I mean, before corona, you might have needed another setup, another physical setup in your space, or do you have some money to sign up for one of these services like StreamYard that we use, which will make the process a lot easier for you, right? Like there might be opportunities that come up that you would have to give up if you don't have a contingency in place. So
Right.
I just it's just important to have a sense, a good grasp of money even before, like I think people I was thinking when I actually start to make money, then I have can think about how much I'm making or saving or spending or taxes or whatever. But it's good to have these things in place when the money is little, right? So you
Right.
don't even have that much to calculate. Then you know how to do it when the money gets bigger because the money will come, right? We don't have to overanalyze profits first. We can focus on quality and, delivering quality, and then the profits will come.
Right. I mean, once you have your base established, right? Once you have your process,
Mhm.
all you have to do then at that point is just talk about your product and sell
Mhm.
it. And make sure
Yep.
that you make more or that you get more or that you're constantly meeting the demands. And when things
Yeah.
start growing, then you need to have yet another contingency plan. Okay.
How you going to
What
pay for
happens
it?
when I get to phase two,
Mhm.
right? If
Yes, so
this takes off,
that brings me to, what are you going to sell? Like, are you making something, or, are you going to wholesale something where you go out and buy 20 or 30 or 50, whatever number fits into your budget? You go out and buy, like I did, 20 body butters, right? Because you're planning to sell body butters. Or are you going to private label where you put your own label on someone else's product, right? A manufactured product that is waiting for a label to go on it. Like, if you think of some of the products from, I'm obsessed with Hearth and Hand right now, and the Joanna Gaines in them. Joanna's not making pottery. She's not whittling wicker furniture, right? She goes and finds manufacturers that make a thing that she likes, and then she puts her name on it. That is called white labeling. That is what, like, if Joanna Gaines can do it, then you can do it too. You know what I
right,
mean? And so you think about how you're going to get the product that you're going to sell, and whether you want to make it yourself or you want to buy it already made. And then think about whether you want to be in your house shipping. Do you have space for inventory in your house? Do you have space to, like, have 50 of vanilla, 50 of chai, and 50 of patchouli? Like, do you have that kind of space, or would you rather have someone else fulfill it for you? So maybe you have a drop shipping store where the orders come to you and then you place an order and they ship it directly to the person. Like, there's so many different ways to get products to people that are all legitimate, right? Sometimes we get caught up on, if I am not touching this thing at every single step of the way, then it's not my thing. And I just
right.
like to remind myself that Joanna Gaines is not whittling wood, right? She's not out here whittling um corbels or like whatever the heck she's
Right. I mean,
right?
her husband can make them,
Right.
and he
Yes, her
puts
husband
them up, and he builds the
is
houses.
busy.
But
He's too
typically,
busy breaking down a wall.
right. I mean, she's too busy going to all these, like, what do you call those little outdoor tag
Flea
sales,
market and
antique sales, are
yeah,
like little,
yep.
and she's always looking for little knickknacks that then she can repurpose, and
Repurpose
then
or upsell, right? Like,
right. So I'll give you an example. Right. So she found these little, like, old, like, Pepsi Cola sign like lamps that she created two little pendant lights for over this island, right? And so once she repurposed them, they look so cute that she probably had that old thing replicated many times over to look old and sell it like it's a brand new item.
Jocelyn says Chip can make them. I can't even see what this says.
Chip can't make them, but he
He
can
can't
put
make.
them up. Well, I think I've seen him cut out like little corbels and stuff. But most times, you're right, Joanna.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Jocelyn. You're right. Most times they find them and they pull them out from the job site and just put them back up. But why are we talking about Joanna?
Yeah, well, because I'm mildly obsessed with them. But the point
So
of
am I.
that the point of that was don't get don't get caught up with feeling like it isn't yours if you haven't like chipped at the wood or sanded the edges or whatever the heck it is that it is that you want to do, right?
People don't know
I
that.
made People don't know it, and I that's why I'm saying it out loud, right? I
All they
really
see is your name on it.
Exactly, exactly. I really wanted to make the deodorant, and so I was adamant and I was going through it was like my time in the kitchen, like I was happy to do that. But when I wanted to grow the Echo Body line, I knew that I did not want to make my own body butter formula, right? I tried it. I think I tried it twice and it didn't come out the way that I wanted, and I was like, I don't have to do this, right? Like I could just go out and find a body butter that I like and then present it to people. And I think that we forget or don't know that a lot of a successful business in in terms of e-commerce or sales or like selling something like that is all about the curating, right? There's
Right.
a reason why people shop at the Gap because the Gap clothing looks a certain way. There's a reason why people shop Hearth and Hand because the stuff look a certain way. It is about if you're going to open a store, whether it's a skincare line or a clothing line or a home wares accessories kind of thing, it is about what your eye curates for the people that says to them, if you like this kind of thing, then come to me for it,
Right.
right? The scents that I have, I like these warm scents. There are so many different scents. And I will tell you, as the person who's running the store, I get overwhelmed when I look at the long list of 39 different like scent combinations. I can't even imagine if you, as the consumer, would have to go through all of that. But I can say, we're going into the winter cozy season. Why don't we do some like cinnamony type things, some
Right.
patchouli type things, and like maybe some sandalwood, right? And
Big
you
box stores do it
curate.
all the time. Right.
Exactly. That's why cinnamon and pumpkin is not available in April, right? It's only available now. So don't underestimate the importance of you as the owner, as the creative, curating, right? There's so many different kinds of necklaces, but
Right.
you can curate a line of dainty woodland nymph type things. Like if I imagine myself being a woodland nymph or a fairy, what kinds of things would I wear, right?
Right.
That is what people are coming to your store for. So use your eye and like curate your stuff.
Right.
Um, then then the last thing that I wanted to suggest as you're thinking about whether you want to launch is, do you want to build it yourself or do you want to start from uh, with something that's already built? So for example, you could make the deodorant yourself, right? I decided I wanted to start Echo Body. You start Echo Body. You build your own website, you make your own formula, you package the things, you do all the things. Everything is me, and now I'm exhausted, right? On the other hand, you can buy a whole business, right? So on our sister show Amplify, we had friends of ours, the owners of Chipmunk Coffee. They came on when they launched. I want to say back in August. They bought a fully functioning, fully running local cafe in their neighborhood. The owners were retiring. It was a beloved cafe that's been there for 30 years or however long it is. It had people working there already, really awesome clientele, really awesome relationship with the coffee growers or whatever. And our friends were like, bet all of that is already set. Like, we can run a business, right? And it's not any, there's no difference in ownership from them who started with an already formed business and me who started in my kitchen. Like, we still both own it. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? And so they will be able to, even with something that has been in existence, add their special sauce to it in different ways, and work within the confines of what's going on to make the transfer and ownership feel like it's new, or they could not and make it feel like
And appreciate.
no transfer of ownership, right? But all of those things are still worthy, and I think that that even I at some points forgot that it is okay to get help in that way, where you get a finished product, at any, go and buy a design for your labels that's already created. It doesn't have to like have come out of thin air, poof, into your head, and that's the only way for it to be legitimately yours, right?
Right. Or
Why we buy stuff, like, it's mine because I paid for it.
think about all of the people that surround you that are entrepreneurs, label makers, digital designers that you can tap to help you create that stuff for you. And then not only are you supporting other small businesses,
Hmm.
you're also allowing others to have a little part in that creative process so that you can focus on more important things.
Right, because maybe you're not good at graphic design.
Right.
And that's okay. You outsource when you need to outsource.
Right.
And that's I saw someone said the other day that, like, as the owner, as the entrepreneur, as the person, as the owner, you need to focus on, she called it your zone of genius, right? And as the owner for probably ever, but definitely most of the early stages, your zone of genius is getting people to know and like you and your thing, whatever it is. Your zone of genius is not necessarily like handwriting labels on the product or packaging FedEx boxes to send the
Mm-hmm.
product everywhere, right? And I think even myself, we get caught up in like, I'm the only one who can do this, and so I need to do every single part. And on the flip side, we might overspend our budget because we outsource everything. I would say, as long as you're within your budget, like, if you need a virtual assistant, get yourself a virtual assistant. If you need templates made for you for something, get those templates made, because either way you're trading time for money. It's either going to take you 2 days to figure out how to use Canva, or you could pay someone a few
To do
dollars
it.
to do it in
Right.
2 hours for you. So make sure that you're constantly thinking through how you are trading money for time. And if you are the owner, right, like, your time could
Is
could be worth a lot of money if it means more sales are coming.
you could already be promoting your product and selling while someone's already taking care of the background stuff for you.
Exactly. Exactly. So, that was just on my mind, and I think we've talked about different bits of this in other episodes, but I definitely wanted to touch on it again because it has been coming up a lot for me lately, within conversations that I'm having, and also because I know that I'm continuously uh, beating back fear in lots of different scenarios. I just had a introduction conversation with a local organization, and they asked me if I could do something, and I stalled for a second because I was like, "Oh my god, I've never done that before. How can I do that? Why do they think I can do that?" Right?
Right.
And I realized that my self-talk was off because I could do that, right? And in the moment, because I've gotten, over the last 4 years, I've gotten good at recognizing my fear. I've been in therapy, so I know, I've learned how to recognize the triggers and how it's presenting itself. And literally in the conversation, I said to them, "Hey, I stopped for a second there because I thought I couldn't do it just because I wasn't sure, but it really is something that I have done before and I actually can do it. So I am not going to allow myself to be afraid because I've never met you before or because I've never done this exact thing before. And I really do think that I could do it. And I would say probably 2 years ago at the start of my um, my entrepreneurial journey, I might have been afraid to even to admit that, right? Like you put
Right.
yourself like it's such a vulnerable position to tell someone that you don't know something when you're trying to get them to to hire you, right? But I actually think it makes you um, a little more credible, um, and even maybe trustworthy or even maybe approachable in a way because everybody is pretending. Everybody is pretending like they know everything and they just like have this weird stiff smile and they're like, oh my God, I'll Google it later. But say yes now.
Right. And let me tell you, Google is your best friend.
Best friend.
When you go on YouTube, go on Google. If you're looking at something like Candice said, don't be afraid to start something that someone has already done.
Mhm.
If it's successful for them and they live in California, why can't it be successful for you in Connecticut?
I mean, literally,
Two completely different markets. However, when you go, you'll get a step by step tutorial on how they launched, how they did
right,
things, and you learn. And there's nothing wrong with, taking an idea.
asking people for help.
Right.
You
So,
learn so much, and especially if it's another entrepreneur, someone who is maybe a few steps ahead of you, but not, Tesla or something.
right.
Um, they are so happy. People are so happy to talk to you, right? I think everybody thinks, oh, this is my idea, like trademarks, and someone's going to steal my idea or whatever. But people who have gone through it, one, they know how hard it is to launch, how hard it is to get over the fear, how like what it takes to actually make a step and make a move. And two, there's some flattery involved, right? Oh, you think I'm cool? How many people are, doing this thing and you chose me to ask? And then they literally just tell you everything, right? And part of being a strong business owner and an entrepreneur is recognizing that there's enough for everyone, right? There are enough children out here to be taken care of. There are children that need to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
There is enough out here for everyone. There's enough market share, right? If your business is doing well, when your line is long, then they'll come here because they know that they can get a similar thing here, right? Like
There's
people know that competition is
8.9
good.
billion people in the
Yes.
world.
And there's that, right? Like there's just no way that one person can give all of the, like I'm thinking about these pop things on the back of your phone, those like pop things. There's
Right.
no way that one company can make enough for the whole world. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so that's why there's so many different ones to choose from, right? So don't get caught up in someone else has already done it, so I can't do it, or
Right.
what are people going to think? Oh my God, we think so much about what people think who have no idea how to do what we're doing.
I mean, look at iPhone, right?
Mhm.
First touchscreen, like responsive phone ever made. Then Android came immediately after and launched, and both companies
Mhm.
make billions
So much money.
for the same exact idea, same product. Maybe the execution is a little different, the aesthetics are a little different. One of them is a little bit more closed than like closed source than the other, but same thing.
Same thing. Same thing.
Billions of dollars. There's
So there's
plenty. There's
plenty of
plenty to
people.
go around.
There's plenty to go around. So I hope that this encourages you to take stock of your idea in the form of writing down some goals, some budgets, some if then situations, right? Like and when I say budget, like don't let that scare you because we find money to do the things that we want to do, right?
Hmm.
I find money for the manicure that I want, or I find money for the bag that I want, right? Like there is money typically to be found. And if you really want this thing to happen, then you
It'll
will
happen.
need the money for it. So don't let fear, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but like don't let these little fears that creep in all the time, don't let them run and ruin you, because like you're so much better than that.
Right.
So, with that, share your like comment below. Let us know what your big, beautiful, bright idea is and how you are gonna go about grabbing it, right? Making
Right.
it real, bringing it into the real world. Like turn a thought into a thing. Like how dare you keep it from us? Like, I might really need this thing that you have stuck in your head. What about me? Just think about me. What
Right.
about me? Right. So, if you have any questions about launching or need any help with like thinking through an idea, definitely reach out to me. That is my jam. I love to like think through big ideas with people because it's really fun. It's fun to be a part of other people's creative journey. So if you have any questions about that, do feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any questions on launching a podcast, we're both here for you. So definitely reach out to us below in the comments or on email. We would love to talk you through any kind of podcast or life related questions. So we are here as always every Thursday on all of the platforms. Catch the replay on YouTube. We hope you're watching it on YouTube right now. Do like and share the show. We are trying to grow this channel because all the reasons why growing your channel is important. So please do hit the subscribe button because it would mean a lot to us. So, with that said, I think that's all the things. Did I miss anything?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. With that said, guys, until next time.
Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.